Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'll be talking about columns and rows, right? And rows. Now, why are these used? Let's take an example and figure it out. Let's say this is our window and we have a button here. Below that we want an image. Below that we want text. Let's say call me at 9132, a phone number, right? Below that, let's say we want a box which says thank you, right? So if you want elements to be on in this order, like in a column like fashion, or let's take another example. This is a window and you have an image here of a cat, an image of a dog, an image of a mouse, right? And these are all side by side. So this is achieved using something called a row. And if you want vertically, it's achieved through columns. So this is very useful in like responsive layouts. Like let's take an example of a window. Here, this is a header which has a home button, a button for settings, a button for FAQ, a button for contact. Below that there is an image of your product. Below that there is a button. After that there is a footer which says call me at this number, right? So if you want a layout like this, if you see, sorry for that, if you see, this is a row, this and this entire thing is a column, right? So we'll be using rows and columns extensively, so that's why I want this I want to tell you about that in this video. Now, before understanding about rows and columns and before using them, let's see if you can achieve that with what we already know. Like let's say this is a rectangle, beside that there is another rectangle, beside that there is another rectangle, right? Now, using x and y, if you know this x and if you know this y, if you see, all of this y is the same, right? Y is nothing but this position, like top to bottom. So here, let's say y is 100, this y is 50, this y is 150, right? Here y is 200, here y is 0. So if you see, all of this y is the same, but x is different, right? Let's say this x is 50, this x is 100, this x is 150, here x is 200, right? So using that x and y coordinates, we can like arrange these items side by side. Here let's say x is 50 comma 50, here this will be 100 comma 50, here x is 150, y is 50, right? So for all of these, y is 50 and x changes. Similarly for columns, the x axis will be the same, but the y axis will keep on changing, right? So that's one way of doing that. We can also achieve something similar with anchors. Let's say we know the position of this rectangle. If you want to place another below it, this anchor's top and this anchor's bottom will be equal, and then you have to give some margin, like anchor top margin, right? That's one another way of achieving it. And this left will be the same, or this right and this right will be the same, right? So you can achieve that using anchoring and also x and y. The problem is, let's say we have a rectangle, two rectangles side by side and a button. On clicking on this, we want another rectangle to be created. Again, on clicking on this, another. So dynamically, if you create rectangles, this x and y positioning and this anchors, like this will be a nightmare, and we don't want that, right? We want it to be simplified. That's why we introduce something new called columns and rows. So let's see, let's add a column, then we add a rectangle, right? Let's take a rectangle example. Let's give it a width of, let's say 100, and give it a height of, let's say 100, and the color to be tomato, which is red. And then another rectangle, my bad, width also 100, height also 100, and color, let's say sky blue. Is sky blue color? Yeah, it is. Yeah, let's run the application once. Right now there are two rectangles, right? And we have used a column. So yeah, first is red and below that there is blue. Now it's on the top left, so let's center this column inside the window. I'll say anchors dot center in and parent. What is the parent? This is the column. Its immediate parent is window, so the parent is window, right? So I'll center it in the window. Let's run the application once. Yeah, as you can see, the column is center. If you see the entire column, the column consists of two rectangles, right? This entire thing is considered to be a column, and that is in the center of the window. It's not like this red part will be at the center and the blue will be shifted down. No, don't think of it like that, right? The entire thing is considered to be a single column, a single element, and that is at the center of the window. I hope you are getting me. If you combine these two, then you will get a single item that is considered to be a column, and that is at the center. So yeah, I hope you are getting me. Now, if you want some spacing between these two elements, right? If you want some gap, so there is a property called spacing, and if you say 20, you'll see a gap of 20 between these two elements. Let's run the application and see it once. Yeah, as you can see, there is a gap between these two elements. So that's all about columns. But before I leave further, let's take another rectangle. I'll just copy paste this, and let's say I'll change the color to light green. Is light green the color? Yeah, it is. Let's run the application once. Yeah, as you can see, there are three colors right now, right? Now my question is, if I want some more space between this green and this blue, right? If I want a little bit more space, like I don't like this space is perfectly fine, but here I want some little bit more space, right? You get me? So how can I achieve that? If I change the spacing here, it will be unique. It will be like commonly distributed for all these items, right? Like the spacing between these two will also be affected. So what I can do is I can add another item. The what's an item? It's a simple component which is not visible to the user. Like it will not be visible. You can give it some width and height. You can give some width and some height. Let's say 40. So it will be there, but it will not be visible. It's transparent. Like so. Let's see what happened. Yeah, as you can see, there is a gap now. Now let's see what happened actually here. Right. So this is the rectangle. Here is the blue rectangle. This is the red. This is the blue. Here there is some spacing of 20. Here also there is some spacing of 20. This is the item which is not visible. Like the user cannot see this, right? It's not visible. After that, there is a spacing of 20. Then there is our green rectangle, right? This item's height was 40. So in a way, between this blue and this green rectangle, the total gap is 20 plus 40 plus 20, which is 80, right? If you want to decrease this gap or increase this gap, just change the height of this item, right? If I change the height to, let's say, 1, now let's run the application once. You'll see a little bit less gap, right? Yeah, and as you can see, since the item is not visible, the width does not matter, right? We are only concerned with the height, because if you increase the height, like let's say the item is this large, width does not matter, right? Because we are only concerned with this height, like this gap. This gap only means height, the y-axis. So that's why we are only concerned with the height. I hope you're getting me. If we wanted this spacing, like between these two elements, then the width would have mattered, right? If the item was more wider, the gap would be more. But we are only concerned with the height, because this is the first element, this is the second element. We want this gap. This is only height. Yeah, as you can see, okay, one was a bit less. Okay, I get it now. If you don't give it some width, then it won't be visible at all, right? Because the width is 0. So yeah, let's give it a little bit width, and now let's see. Yeah, now it's visible properly. I'll tell you what happened. Like, if you don't give it any width, then there is no item, right? So by default, they will like not include this. They will consider it invisible, and that's why you have to give it some width and height. If I explain it like more details, let's say this is our rectangle, this is another rectangle, right? Now, if there is a little bit width, it will consider it to be an item. But if there is no width, then it's a point, right? Not even a point, because even a point has one width and one height. So if it's nothing, and if it's nothing, then it's not even an item. So we only have two items. I'll show you actually what I mean. Now let's see, we have three rectangles, right? If I run the application, all of these will have even spacing of 20, right? Because we removed the item. Now, if I mark this visible to be false, visible is a property. If it's false, then it's not, then the user cannot see it, right? It will not be visible to the user. Now if you see like there is no space left for the blue rectangle, right? What if you would have assumed that there will be more space for the blue, like it will not be 20, it will be like 40 or something. No, that's not it, because if its visible is false, then it will directly remove this element. In a way, this column now only has two elements, this rectangle and this rectangle. That's why that exactly happened when we set the items width to 0, or we did not set any width. It directly removed it because it was not visible to the user, because it had no width or no height. So I hope you got my point. Otherwise I'll explain it. Just tell me in the comments if you are getting stuck, and I'll explain it again. Right now we are done with columns. Let's start with rows. So just replace it with row. Row is nothing but horizontal aligning of elements, like side by side. Let's see now. Yeah, as you can see, elements are side by side, right? So this is horizontal, side by side, and all the properties are same. If you increase the spacing and right, you can also introduce an item here. Let's say we have an item of width 1 and height 1. Let's say we have a width of 50, right? Because if you know, row wise width matters, right? Let's see. Yeah, as you know, row wise width matters, column wise height matters. I hope you got that logic. Now, one more thing is, there's a unique property in row which is not present in columns, and that is, you want the ordering to be from left to right or right to left, right? Let's see. Right now, first item is tomato, which is here. Second is sky blue, which is here. Third is light green, which is here, right? So it's left to right. The ordering is left to right. What if you want the reverse ordering, right? Sorry for the audio glitch. Actually, when I pressed F1 on my keyboard, I had a sleep function and my PC went to sleep, and that's where my audio broke. Yeah, resuming to where I was. Sorry for that. I'll start again. Yeah, currently, if you run the application once, you'll see that items are aligned left to right. Right. This first item, the color tomato, is in the extreme left. Then this one in the middle, and then this green color in the right. Right. Now, if you want the reverse ordering, there is a property in row which is not present in columns. Mind you, it's only present for rows, right? So if you click on row and press F1, and in my case it's function plus F1 on the keyboard, you'll see a property called layout direction, right? And if you click on it, it says queued left to right and queued right to left. And as you've guessed, we want it to be right to left, right? So let's say we have layout direction, and I'll set it to queued right to left. And now let's run the application. You'll see the first item with the color red will be in the extreme right. Yeah, the other is left to right, which is by default. So if you don't set anything, it's by default left to right. Let's run the application once. Yeah, now there are also some animation properties which are like move and like populate, but I'll only be able to teach you after I teach you about animations and transitions, right? So for now, that's all, and we'll be using columns and rows extensively in our latest, like in our new project, which I'll be starting in this video. And thank you for watching. Have a